Good evening, everyone, and welcome to your news update with me, Odera. On the news this evening, we will be talking about crime. Unfortunately, a very sorry topic, but one that must be discussed. Now, last month, the Prime Minister of Jamaica announced the first ZOSO zone of special operations. And last week, they just announced that the environs will include the Denham Town area. This is the latest ZOSO, which is expected to last 60 days. So, my question for you, the viewers, is ZOSO working in Jamaica? Is it effective? Are the special forces that they've put to task doing exactly what they need to do? And does this second zone opening represent that it has been working so far and they do see promise of it in the future? Of course, also, I would like to know from you guys, the viewers, if it's possible that community members around should help these special operatives more in their fight against crime. I'll be waiting to hear from you. Also, remember that you can call in on our number. If you need that number again, I'm going to give it to you right here. That number is +1 because we're in the US, +1 347 343 1989. Okay, that's the number for you to call. Moving on to our next topic for this evening. Popular English goalkeeper Joe Hart is reportedly the latest victim of the Moped gang, apparently terrorizing Londoners this year. According to the Daily Mail, as of July, the Moped gangs had robbed at least 54 times a day. Now, these gangs hold training sessions, snatching phones from each other before heading out onto the streets to attack innocent citizens. As of the end of May, Scotland Yard, the UK police, is said to have seen a 1,766% spike in scooter crime, with 8,192 crimes at the half year mark already. Now, my question for viewers is, what does it say that we've not heard so much about these moped gangs, but their rise is incredible? 1,000% increases, and this is not like worldwide news every day. Could it be because they're supposedly a first world country and crime is only relevant in third world countries? Or could there be another reason? Or do they not take it seriously enough? Something to think about. Meanwhile, this morning in New York, Queens, there was a robbery that took place at a local store. One man was killed and another was injured, and the policemen are still on a manhunt for the men that they say were dressed in suits. It's quite interesting that crime is pretty rampant in 2017 when where you're supposed to be on a mission for peace. All the UN mandates and many of the mandates around the world are focused on peace. So why do we have a problem with community related crime, that centralized crime in little cities, little towns, as opposed to the bigger terrorism issue that they always seem to be focusing on mainstream media? I'm waiting to hear in for your calls and contribution to this, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. Of course, the final issue that I'll be talking about today is the Harvey Weinstein sexual harassment scandal. Now, the latest accuser in this scandal has been none other than our Black Queen, Lupita Nyong'o, who wrote a heart-wrenching essay in the New York Times speaking about her experience when she was in the Yale drama school. Now, surprisingly, Harvey Weinstein actually spoke up for the first time since these allegations have come out to say he does not exactly remember this particular account, in the same breath, almost confirming the accounts of everyone else that has spoken up, but somehow throwing Lupita under the bus. And I really wonder why. Could it be Lupita is not saying the truth about the account? Could it be he was too drunk to remember exactly? Or could it be another reason? Let's talk about that today, this evening, and so much more. Now, I'm waiting for you guys to call in. I have my phone here, I have that number for you. Check it out. And I'm going to pin the number right here. So, anyone that comes in and wants to talk about what we have to say, it would be a lovely thing for you to do. So that is the number to call in and join on this conversation. Now, a little background of this show, since it is quite new, I will tell you what my mission here is with you. I want to give you all the news updates from Jamaica to every corner of the world, all the news you need to know and be aware of, because information is power. If we know more about our world, we can know better ways to find solutions to the problems going on in it. You have to stay informed and you have to stay objective at all times. Form your own opinions if you like, but make sure you know everything about an issue. And that's what I'm here to do for you. I intend to provide all the news you need to know about every issue possible. And of course, feel free to contribute. Let me know what you want to talk more about. Let me know what you want to know more about, and I will do that research and report it back for you, because that is my job. Okay, so I'm waiting for more people to tune in and we'll talk about these topics. So I'm going to go over them once again in case anybody missed it or anybody has not caught up with us now. Let me start from the beginning. Now, the Jamaican Prime Minister um, announced Mount Salem and its environs as the first ZOSO zone. That's the zone of special operations. These special operations were started to combat crime, specifically in specific areas with specific special forces agents. And so far, it's supposed to have run for 60 days. So far, they've been doing a lot of good work. It must be so because last week the Prime Minister declared that the sections of Denham Town would be the next ZOSO zone. And that'll also be expected to last for another 60 days. So this could possibly be as an effect of the positive turnaround they saw with the first zone. And the first 60 days are not completely done with that. So it must mean that they've seen a lot of progress already, and they can't wait to see how much more progress can be done on the next zone. And that's exciting to know that crime is being handled there in Jamaica. We know that there is a large crime problem and it needs to be tackled. We need to tackle crime in every part of the world, of course, and it's something that we've been struggling for a long time, tackling petty crime and crimes that disturb communities and neighborhoods, of course. So this is something that we are excited about, and I hope that it works. I hope it goes through. Now, my question for you guys today, of course, is if you feel as Jamaicans in the area, you were there on the ground, let me know if you feel that this also has actually been effective. Could the government just be trying it out because they feel they need more tough hands on crime, or have you really seen an improvement since this also started? Also, I want to find out if it's possible that the citizens can do more to help the government and the forces in their fight against crime with the ZOSO zones. Okay, that's that's our number one topic, and I'm waiting to hear in. The number to call is pinned right there on your screen, so make sure you call in and talk to me. I want to interact with you, get to know your opinions, find out how you feel about these issues, and find out if these are things you want to talk about. So let me know, call in. I'm here waiting for you. The next topic, we go over to Europe, London, England to be exact, where popular, where popular footballer Joe Hart is reportedly the latest victim of the Moped gang attack. Now, the Moped gangs have been terrorizing London increasingly this year to the point that they have had at least 8,192 moped attacks at the half year mark already. Now, there are no reports currently as of this October what that number has risen to, but 8,192 as of June is quite a bit. And this is a story that I feel has only been reported in the UK media. I have not seen it so much in mainstream media. It has not gotten enough attention. And I would like to see more about it. There should be more warnings. There should be more on it for us to know that this is something dangerous, at least to let those traveling to London be aware. I was in London earlier this year in April, and I had no idea. I got no warning at the airport. I got no travel warnings, and there are usually travel warnings for places with high crime rates, and these are one of them. And of course, London is one of those places that does have a high tourist attraction rate. So I think it's something that a lot of people need to know about. And why? Why do we think that it's not something that we've heard a lot about? What could be the reason? You would think that once crime is at a very high level, for an English football star to be attacked, the chances of anyone, especially a tourist, being attacked is very, very high. Very, very high. And this happens at all sorts of areas, so it's not concentrated in probably the ghettos or whatever of London. It means it happens anywhere. And of course there are mopeds, so it can happen anywhere. They just zoom on past, snatch your phone, or surround you and take your wallet, take your watch. And that's crazy. Okay, so that's number two topic. We are talking about crime today, crime around the world in neighborhoods and communities. Here in New York, of course, New York has the reputation for a very high crime rate, even though in recent times it has not been as rampant as it once was in New York history. Unfortunately, this morning, one man was killed and another man was wounded when men in suits came to rob a store in Queens. Now, this story is very odd because it seems that crime is taking a new shape or a new fashion. It's odd to hear of men in suits dressing up to rob a store. Could it be that they are planning a bigger attack? Could this be a practice run? Could it be something that they are trying to see if they can do on a larger scale? Now, for those that do not know how New York is, Queens is one of the more residential boroughs, so not as many tourists go there as they would Manhattan, which is the hub of tourist attraction and tourist activity. So if they're practicing in Queens, it's quite a possibility that they plan on doing something bigger in the city, which could prove a danger. And for such a petty crime, for them to actually kill someone, it really brings a lot to question. Like, what is their motive? What are they after? Could men really dress up in suits just to steal a couple of dollars? Or is this a bigger syndicate of something more dangerous to come? Of course, the police are still on the manhunt for this man, and that actually happened around 10:30 New York time this morning. So we should be looking out to hear more on that news. In entertainment news, unfortunately, it is not exciting. The Harvey Weinstein scandal has been causing quite the uproar in Hollywood. Now, a number of now a number of Hollywood starlets and Hollywood workers have come out to complain about sexual harassment by Harvey Weinstein on a number of occasions, leading back several years. And many people are just starting to speak up. It started with one voice, and as of now, according to reports, his wife claims to be leaving him because of these allegations. Now, the latest accuser in this fiasco has been Lupita Nyong'o, who wrote a very heartfelt article in the New York Times about her particular incident. Now, contrary to the other accusations, Harvey Weinstein has actually spoken up and claimed not to remember such an incident, even going ahead and saying that's possible. That is not the way it went down. Now, it's quite interesting because he barely had anything to say for any of the other accusations. And what does he hope to gain? You know, she wrote a whole article in the New York Times. I don't believe she could lie about something like that and at such gravity, such a grave accusation in the New York Times. And what does it mean that this is the first that he has actually responded to? And of course, responded to almost in defense, like, oh, yes, maybe the others are sexually harassed, but her, no. You know, like, how could it be? And because the allegations are so many, especially at this point, could it be that he even remembers what he's been doing these whole years? Or could it be another reason? Maybe Lupita is not his type or something? I have no idea why he would say that, but I'm looking out for more on that story. And I'm also looking out for how Hollywood intends to handle this issue. Now, we know that, excuse me, now we know that sexual harassment has been a big issue for the general public, especially those involved in the Women's March. So, for this to be shaking Hollywood at this time, and the rate at which many have spoken up and come out to talk about what is going on, proves that sexual harassment is a big issue in America and definitely around the world. And now, what we need to focus on is how we're going to address it. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, Odera.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
You're looking lovely.
Thank you very much.
You're looking lovely, actually. I'm calling. Good evening. I am good. Thank you. I just want to say, of course, you're looking lovely, actually.
Thank you.
I actually want to say maybe Weinstein want to say Lupita is not his type.
Okay.
I'm thinking.
Okay. That makes sense. But I want to ask you, an animal, this is a predator. For so many people to have come up to talk about how he has sexually harassed them in the past over the years, many people, would you think this type of person has a type?
No, I think he don't. But I think in particular, you just want the world to think that, to think, oh, why would I want to be with her? You know, I think that's what it is, really. But I don't think he has a type.
I want to play the devil's advocate and ask probably, do you think it's a race issue? Because most of the women that spoke forward, especially the one that started this domino effect, were white women. Could that possibly be a reason?
Yes, I think the reason why he actually spoke out about her, it's because of race. He just want to say, yeah, look at her. Why would I want to be with her? I think that's what it is, because there's nothing else that is special about her other than her race. So I think that could be a possibility. Could be a possibility, I would say. So yes, yes.
Okay, thank you for your contribution. Now, we spoke about two other topics. Would you like to weigh in on them as well, please?
Yeah. In regards to the ZOSO in Jamaica, I think the communities, the locals in Jamaica, the Jamaican people should do more. The government can do a lot and should do a lot, and I think it's a good it's a good kind of method to combat crime, to get all the guns, and to kind of let the criminals know we are coming for you. So it's a good thing.
That's awesome.
But I think the citizens within those communities should give up the criminals. They have to help the government. They must help the government to rid the communities of crime. You know, it's their communities, and if they don't do enough, then the government can do so much.
Okay,
so
now
yes,
I wanna pick on something you said. You said that the citizens should give up the criminals. Now, bear in mind that these are neighborhood criminals, and so most of the people that unfortunately they're attacking, they know or come from that community. Now, take for instance a mother that her child has become a deviant and is now a criminal. Would you expect that type of person to give up her own son to be put away for a long time or even possibly life? You know, there's this culture, especially amongst the black community, about stitches get snitches and about snitching. It's been a problem even here in the US, and in most places you find that people don't tend to want to tell on each other. Now, what do you think? How do you think that can be combated?
yes, I think that's very important, actually, that point. You're absolutely right. Um, but I think on a wider scale, if people in those communities want to to change their circumstances, then they have no choice than to give up the criminals. And also, I think, I don't know if this is getting a little bit away from the topic, but I think the government has to implement other systems within those communities, like um, community development, social systems, which give people hope that okay, we can do better or do something different in regards to accommodate our criminal relatives. So yeah, I think the government should implement systems, social services, community projects. Those will help in regards to changing minds of how people should go about dealing with the issue of crime. So it's a very tricky topic, as you rightly said, but I think that it will be a long-term goal, long-term strategy, but that would help in regards to giving up their relatives. Yes, it's going to be hard, and that's when I think the government really needs to step up and say, okay, if you accommodate these criminals, you're going to go to jail as well. So it would have to be a tough call on the government, and I think that's what maybe the ZOSO area is about now. And so I think it's a good method, and it has to be a method that's going to be long term. It's going to be forced. They have to know that okay, it's not going to be here for a little while and then be gone. No, it's going to be long term. It's going to be constant. They're going to know that okay, if you have those criminals, we're going to put you to jail as well. So yes.
Okay. Now, let me ask you, have you ever heard of the Moped gangs of London?
Yes. actually, there's an incident where they actually went into a cafe, I think, and robbed everybody in the cafe, actually. And there's another incident, I think, where they pulled down a glass and took jewelry, I think, if I'm not wrong,
There's a
if I'm not right
CCTV
about that.
footage about that, actually.
Yeah, they're doing, it's like they're running a lot of havoc in London. And I think, in regards to your topic or what you said, if this was a so-called third world country, would the would the status be different? Is
So
it because it's London and of course it's a so-called first world country? It's a high tourist environment. Would the status be different if, like, say, per se, Jamaica? Would it be seen, oh, it's a high crime rate? Would it be labeled as such? Or maybe something from Africa or something. Would it be labeled accordingly to what is going on? So, yes, so I think it's dangerous. And I think crime, in every communities or in locals should be called out at it. And I think maybe possibly, governments can work together and come up with different systems and strategies of how to combat all these criminal activities within. And I know there's a lot of community projects in London. I know that for sure because I've lived and I've mentored in some of those community projects. So I would say London is doing well on that, but I don't know, something else needs to be done in regards to that. But yes, in regards to Jamaica, it needs to be better communication in regards to the people and the police. So yes.
okay, now let me ask about your impression about crime in New York. Would you say it has reduced drastically from what it used to be, or would you say it's kind of remained the same, but because of the mass population growth, it's not as concentrated as it once was?
Well, I think, as I said, some areas in New York with regards as more high crime rate than others. Um, and I think in regards to the statistic from the mayor, they said crime has gone down drastically. I think because it's a bigger, I guess there's more people, then of course it's not going to be seen as a lot or overwhelming because it's a lot of people and it's now sporadic instead of overall a big intense of activities going on. But yeah, I think from my perspective, I would think maybe it has reduced. I think because I've moved around places in New York, and I have to say I'm not totally afraid. So even though I'm always aware that okay, something can happen, but I think maybe in regards to what the mayor is doing now, I think there are some changes. I would say yes. I think Mayor de Blasio, and I think whatever he's been doing with the police, I think there are some changes. I think so. So I am going to particularly agree with that. I think I'm going to agree with that. Yes.
Okay, well, unfortunately, there was a robbery this morning in Queens. Now, I want to ask what your impression is. The robbers were said to have come dressed in suits. Unfortunately, they killed one man and wounded another. What kind of impression does that give you of this type of petty crime, stealing from a store and actually killing and wounding a person, two people? How does that?
Well, I would say for people to dress in suits, that's rather odd, to be honest. And I'm not sure how to respond to people dressed in suits committing petty crimes. I think that, of course, that is something that should be looked into more by the authorities. And yeah, that's rather strange and rather odd, I would say. So I don't know how to respond to that. I have to say, I'm afraid. Yes, men in suits and petty crime. Yes, I don't know how to respond to that. I mean, as I said, there could be something else behind it. But and I think that's the first actually I've heard. So yeah, that's really the first I've heard that. I mean, petty crimes are normally committed by people, running around, trying to get small cash or something. But for a gang of men to dress up in suits to commit a petty crime, then of course, I think the authorities may need to look further into that. I would say.
Okay, let me ask you, what other topics would you like for me to discuss? Or what would you like to hear on News Update with Odera?
Hmm. I don't know. I have to think about it. Um, I'm gonna have to think about it. I think I have to think about that, and I will inbox you or call you guys or email you or something.
Okay, thank you so much for calling in. I hope you enjoyed the discussion. Please tune in next time. Our next dates are Wednesday and Friday.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you for listening.
welcome.
Bye.
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 That was our very first caller, and it was a very interesting discussion. I hope you can see that I like to talk about the news and get your opinion. As a journalist, I do love to engage, ask questions, and kind of poke the bear a little, especially about very controversial issues or issues that are not so straightforward. So please feel free to call in, of course, and join in the conversation. If you're just joining us, I'm going to go over the topics for today, and hopefully I would get some calls soon and have some people contribute. Of course, if you're not interested in calling in, please do not hesitate to drop a comment, and of course I will respond to you. Okay, now our number one topic for this evening is last month the Jamaican Prime Minister announced that Mount Salem and its environs would be the first ZOSO. Now, ZOSO stands for Zone of Special Operations, where special forces are targeting and concentrating on crime in this particular zone. Now, it seems to have been pretty effective because last week the Jamaican Prime Minister announced that Denham Town would be the latest ZOSO zone, and that will be expected to last for 60 days on its own. Now, could this be an indication of it working the first time, or could it be that they're trying more thorough ways of combating crime in Jamaican streets? What does this mean for the Jamaican people? And of course, I'm asking, could the Jamaican people do more to help the government and these special forces that are in their communities combat crime? Is there something more they can do? What can they do? And possibly, are they already doing enough? Second topic for this evening is very popular English goalkeeper Joe Hart was unfortunately the victim of the Moped gangs of London. They stole his phone, watch, and wallet when he was leaving practice last week evening. And according to the Daily Mail, this is a big issue. As of the end of July, the Moped gangs are said to rob at least 54 times a day. Now, these gangs are reportedly said to hold training where they jump on mopeds and rob each other before they hit the streets and rob innocent bystanders. Now, at the end of May, Scotland Yard, that is the UK police, is said to have seen a 1,766% spike in scooter crime, with 8,192 crimes at the half-year mark. Now, there are no reports on what that number has risen to as of this October, but it can be said that there are many. If as of last week, a whole football star, international football star, could be a victim of these petty thieves. how much more is going on in London? And I've been asking, why is it that this is not something we have heard more about? In third world countries, we seem to hear and we know how their neighborhood crime, community crime rate is high, and places not to go to, places that are dangerous, things to look out for, pickpockets, thieves, all sorts of things. How is this not a warning in London? How is this not a bigger deal? Why has there not been a louder outcry about this situation? Now, is it because of the status London, England holds as a first world country, or could it be another reason? Is there a reason UK authorities are trying to keep this under wraps? Possibly because London is such a big tourist attraction, or what exactly? And why are these gangs being allowed to operate at such alarming rates? Now, London is used to be known for its peacefulness, but it seems that London is not so peaceful after all. Now, there have been particular areas in London that reports high crime rates, but in general, the UK police do not carry guns around. So that should tell you that the threat of petty violence and community violence, neighborhood violence, is not as high as in other places. For example, the US, where officers do carry guns at all times, and some officers actually carry rifles to stand at very popular public places. So that's something that let's talk about and discuss to know more about. I want to know what you think about this issue. Let's rub minds, get more about it, and kind of investigate it together. Unfortunately, this morning here in New York, Queens, a man was wounded and a man was killed after two men in suits stormed a store to rob it. Um, Police authorities are still on a manhunt looking for these men, but it's quite interesting that men would commit a petty crime wearing suits. I'd love to know what you think of that. Now, in the past, New York has had a bad rap for high crime, and in recent times, we haven't heard as much as we used to. They've been pretty sporadic because, of course, the population increase and how large New York is getting every day. Possibly the city it could be safer in terms of what the mayors doing to clean up crime and what past mayors have done. Their efforts seem to have been paying off. I can say for certain that the New York City subway is not as dangerous as it once was, and people generally feel a sense of safety around. I think that's a topic I'm going to take to the streets to find out how safe New Yorkers feel. Look out for that episode. One of these days, that would be something for us to talk about with people on the streets. Remember, I'm sitting down waiting for you to call me and engage me because I would really love to hear your opinion on these issues. In case you're just joining us, our topic for today is basically our theme for today is basically about crime. Unfortunately, in Jamaica, London, New York, and anywhere around the world. The last issue is supposed to be entertainment news. Unfortunately, it's not a very entertaining topic. Now, the Harvey Weinstein sexual harassment allegation has blown up into a big thing as many young Hollywood women and older Hollywood women have come out to speak up about how Harvey Weinstein has sexually harassed them in the past. Now, the latest accuser in that has been Lupita Nyong'o, who wrote a very touching article in the New York Times about her experience, especially while at the Yale Drama School. In surprising fashion, Harvey Weinstein has actually responded for the first time to one of these allegations by saying he does not remember that situation happening. that way. Now, I find it pretty curious that of all those that have come out to accuse him, Lupita is the first person that he has actually tried to deny it. Now, could it possibly be that Lupita is lying? Would she go all the way to the New York Times and write such a piece to tell a lie and, join in on the fun and accuse this Hollywood mogul? Or is Harvey Weinstein lying for some reason? And what reason? What would cause him to deny Lupita's accusation amongst the many that have come out so far? To the point that his wife has actually said she would be leaving him. It's a very interesting situation. Now, I would like to know your views, of course, on sexual harassment in the workplace. For it to have gotten to the point that even Hollywood is not immune from this, and of course, um, I don't think Hollywood should be so surprising. I remember growing up watching a lot of these movies where, especially, movies targeted at young preteen and teens, where they give these scenarios of a photographer trying to take your picture, and it turning into something else. You find yourself in a dangerous situation, or agents that ask for favors so actresses could get parts. I've always seen this as a constant theme, so it seems pretty interesting that this Harvey Weinstein allegations are getting or causing such a stir for them. Of course, it is the fact that this is a very rich and powerful man of Hollywood, but predators don't usually have a type. Predators come in all shapes and sizes, and I would believe that a person of that status would definitely abuse his power in any way that he can. Now, of course, our president, the president of the United States, was also accused of a couple of such sexual harassment allegations, and he still became president, of course. But there seems to be a pattern with men in power and using that power for their own personal evil. And it says something. Is there a correlation between having that much money and power and wanting to impose that on women? And it also, opens up the larger women equality issue. Why does it seem to um, be a thing for men that they think they're allowed to do? Why do they feel when they make this much money and they attain this certain level of power that they are now authorized, or they now have been welcomed into this club where they can terrorize women or make them feel uncomfortable for no just reason? What does this say about our work culture? That sexual harassment is even a thing? Are we behaving as professional as we possibly can? Are we behaving as we're behaving as professional as we possibly can in the workplace? Now, in many workplaces, there are, I'm sure many of you may have seen these work videos that they put out about sexual harassment in the workplace and how much of a big issue it is. In ordinary offices, for us not in Hollywood, it's a fireable offense, and like termination immediately. So I wonder, I'm very curious about how they intend to go about this Harvey Weinstein um, allegations, because if they turn out to be true, I'm certain that charges may want to be pressed, or maybe it could even take him to court. But would there be any shame? Now, in the past, there was a governor in the U.S. that was accused of, actually, that was committing adultery, but he did step down from his position and resign when that hit the media. Now, what do you believe Harvey Weinstein would do in this situation himself, seeing as he's such a powerful man. Now, he works with a lot of movies and has worked with a lot of huge Hollywood stars. Would he withdraw? Would he take a back seat from this position of power simply because these women have come out to accuse him of these things? Or would he go on and work? Now, there has been some fire for Hillary Clinton, who on Hillary Clinton for supporting him because apparently he has been a big supporter of Hillary and has contributed um, largely to many of her campaigns and foundations. So does association matter in terms of this? Now, Hollywood is a big place, and connection usually is how they get to be where they need to be and how they get to be who they are. Um, would a lot of other celebrities as well are coming under fire for not condemning him? Of course, these are still alleged allegations. They have not been investigated and proven, and there are at the moment no charges brought against him. But what does that say? Could that be his power working? That many celebrities are still kind of defending the character that he has, saying that he has been a sweet person and he has been good and of course constructive and instrumental in their Hollywood careers? Or could it possibly people possibly take a stand and say they want to have nothing to do with him any longer? Would there be actors that could possibly come out and say that they won't act in movies that he has anything to do with? um, or would there be people that would say they're not working with him? Now, when this uproar started, the actor Terry Crews actually came to Twitter to give an account of his personal sexual harassment incident that happened years ago. Now, in these tweets, he narrated how this big time Hollywood exec rough handled him right in front of his wife, and they were both very, of course, disturbed and confused. And the man gave no explanation for why he did what he did, and he went home with his wife and pondered over whether to report it or to someone or not. And he said some of the questions that came up that he asked himself was, does he still want to work? Now, that's also an issue. Is it possible that by reporting this, many actresses or professionals in Hollywood have put themselves in places of position where they may not be able to get work again simply because they called out such a very big Hollywood mogul? Now, this situation is much deeper than it looks on the surface, considering how many women have come out to speak up about it. And of course, the issue of sexual harassment now begs the question of, if such a large Hollywood mogul could be doing something like this, how many more are doing the same to others with even less power? If it could take this long for people to open up about it, imagine so many others that everyone has also just kept quiet about. you know and this has been an issue in America. I know the Women's March talks a lot about how men try to dominate them, and this is just another example of the way men try to inflict their power on women by coming into the personal space without being invited for no reason and somehow thinking that it is okay. So back to, I'm gonna start from the beginning. Still waiting for everyone to call in, join the conversation, talk to me. I love to talk. I'm sure you can see that right now. I love to engage. I love to ponder issues. I love to dress issues down, take them apart, look at them intricately so we can discuss them, because information is key. Knowledge is power. We need to have a lot of news going around, shared between ourselves, so we are more aware of what is going on in this world, and we have a better command of how to handle issues when they come up in the future. If we know more about our present, we can be better prepared to handle the future. Now, our first topic for this evening, of course, the theme for this live has been crime. Now, last month, the Jamaican Prime Minister introduced the first ZOSO, which is the Zone of Special Operations. And this is a special crime fighting force that concentrates on particular communities in Jamaica and works there to target the crime specifically. It must be effective because last week the Jamaican Prime Minister announced a second ZOSO zone, and which will last 60 days as well. Now, my question for you, the viewers, has been, of course, those in Jamaica and the Jamaicans that know, has this ZOSO zone been effective in combating crime so far? And of course, should the community members, should the citizens in those areas do more to help the government and the special forces combat the crime? You know, it's a community effort. If crime is happening in your neighborhoods, I believe you would want for it to end quickly. You know, you would be most disturbed about it going on. Now, I wonder if, with my first caller, I asked if it's possible for members of a community that possibly know these criminals to give them up to the police, who will not show any mercy considering the gravity of the crimes that they've committed and their reign of terror on these communities. Of course, as some people know, these terrorists, they are innocent victims that they do attack, and they are innocent bystanders that um unfortunately get in the crossfire of these gun wars and everything. So what happens then? How do you convince someone to turn in someone that they know, and possibly in their opinion they think, oh, they've just fallen off the wagon, whereas they've committed a crime and they have to pay for it? How do you convince people to give up criminals that they know? Now, there's this culture amongst the black community everywhere in the world about not snitching, not telling on each other, somehow protecting people even when they're doing wrong. Now, how do we break this culture of not snitching? How do we tell ourselves that for things to get better, we have to point out the bad eggs and let them serve their justice so they can get the rehabilitation they need to know that crime is not the way, that crime is not the answer? And how do we convince them that by not speaking up, they are also keeping their community at unrest? There will be no peace if you know what is going on and you keep quiet about it. That's something I would love to hear your opinions on. And so call in and speak with me. If there are any other aspects of this issue that I'm possibly missing, please feel free to share with me. I would love to hear more about what you have to say about this. Now, my second story for the evening is about the Moped gangs of London. I don't know how many of you have heard about it, but unfortunately, it's not something that's reigning in mainstream media enough, considering that just last week, a very popular English goalkeeper called Joe Hart was purportedly the latest victim of the Moped gang. He says that he was leaving practice in the evening, and this gang surrounded him and took his phone, watch, and wallet. Now, it seems to be a very large issue if it has already affected such an international star. Thank goodness he was not hurt in the attack, and he's a pretty big guy. So for them to be confident enough to attack this person, it says something about their reign of terror in London. It means there's no one that they're afraid of apprehending and victimizing. Now, According to the Daily Mail, as of July, the moped gangs robbed at least 54 times a day, and they were even bold enough to hold training sessions where they jump on the mopeds and try to rob each other before hitting the streets and robbing innocent citizens. And it's incredible. The Scotland Yard UK police has seen a 1,766% spike in scooter related crime, with 8,192 crimes at the half year mark. Now, there is reportedly no numbers on what that number has risen to currently, but it must be a lot by now, by this October, and I'll definitely be doing more research into that to find out why that number has risen. My issue is I traveled to London in April and I heard nothing about these moped gangs, and I had no warning as an American going to another country for a tourist visit. I had no clue that this was such an issue and such a dangerous issue at that. So my question for viewers today was, could the reason why this has not been publicized as loudly as possibly the crime in Jamaica be because it's supposedly a first world country, or because it's one of a main tourist attraction? What could be the reason that there is not more warning on this? And what is the UK police doing to combat this? It seems to be a problem. They've robbed a cafe, they've robbed a jewelry store. There is no way, there's nowhere they're unwilling to go. They're not afraid, they're practically fearless committing these crimes, and it seems they feel no one can stop them. Of course, the speed of being on a moped would give them that kind of confidence, but what else could be the reason for that? I would love to hear your opinions on these topics. Of course, we're coming close to the end of this live session, and I will soon have to be rounding up. Again, I'm going to give you a brief of what this is. Odera. Now, my job is to give you news from Jamaica to every corner of the world. Everything you need to know about what's going on today, current events and controversial events that we need to be aware of to better handle ourselves in the world. Because, of course, knowledge is power, information is key, and we need to know more. Okay, my job is to give you all that news and, of course, discuss more about it. News is when it's shared. So if you call in, I have my phone. That's the number. Every live, I'll be pinning that number up. So if you'd like to call in and contribute to the conversation, discuss with me, I would completely love that. And I look forward to it. Of course, you can drop a comment. Drop a comment on this live video after you watch it, and I'll be sure to respond so we can keep the conversation going. We will have new topics on Wednesday. Please tune in. Don't forget to tune in, and I look forward to seeing you guys then. Once again, this has been your news update with Odera, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please tune in and have a good night. Bye.